Sometimes the loneliest place in the world is lying beside someone who loves you and still feeling completely alone. Maya Brooks had spent 11 years married to a good man, not a cruel man, not an abusive man, not a cheating man, a good man, a loyal man, a hard-working man, a man who paid the bills, remembered anniversaries, fixed broken things around the house, and kissed her forehead before leaving for work. From the outside, Ethan Brooks looked like the perfect husband. So why did she feel like she was disappearing? That was the question Maya had stopped asking out loud. Because some pain becomes exhausting to explain, especially when the person hurting you doesn't even realize they're hurting you. Night after night, Maya would lie awake staring at the ceiling while Ethan slept peacefully beside her. And every night, the same thoughts haunted her. Inner thought, Maya, when did we stop seeing each other? When did love become routine? When did "how was your day" become just another question asked out of habit? Instead of genuine curiosity, she missed being known. Not loved in the practical sense, known, seen, felt. She missed the version of Ethan who used to notice everything. The man who could hear sadness in her voice before she said a single word. The man who once sat with her for hours just talking about dreams, fears, and life. That man still existed somewhere. At least, she hoped he did. But over the years, life had changed them. Work grew demanding. Responsibilities multiplied. Conversations became shorter. Silence became louder. And somehow, without either of them noticing, distance moved in. Not dramatic distance. Not the kind caused by betrayal. The quiet kind. The dangerous kind. The kind built from missed moments, unsaid feelings, and emotional neglect so subtle it almost looked normal. Until one day, it didn't feel normal anymore. It felt unbearable. Inner thought, Maya, maybe love doesn't always die loudly. Maybe sometimes it fades in silence, while both people are still standing in the same room. That thought shattered her, because Maya didn't want to leave. She wanted to stay. She wanted Ethan to see her, to really see her, to notice the sadness behind her smiles, to hear the loneliness hidden in her silence, to realize she had been drowning right beside him. But people cannot fix what they refuse to see. And Ethan saw nothing, not because he didn't care, but because, somewhere along the way, he confused providing with loving, presence with connection, routine with intimacy. And by the time he noticed something was wrong, Maya had already reached her breaking point. She filed for divorce quietly. No screaming, no dramatic confrontation, no shattered glass, just silence. And the heartbreaking part, her husband never saw it coming. This is not just a story about divorce. It is a story about love, about loss, about emotional neglect, about the painful truth that sometimes love exists, but understanding disappears. Because sometimes the greatest heartbreak isn't betrayal. It's loving someone deeply and still feeling alone. The divorce papers sat in Maya's leather bag for 3 days. 3 long days. Not because she was unsure. That part had already happened months ago. In sleepless nights, silent tears, and painful realizations she never said aloud. No, the hesitation now wasn't about the decision, it was about the finality. Paper had a way of making pain real. Tonight, Maya sat alone in her office, long after her last client had left. The building was quiet. Too quiet. The only sounds were the hum of the air conditioner and the soft tapping of rain against the windows. Chicago was drenched in cold rain. Streetlights blurred into golden streaks against the glass. The divorce papers were spread neatly across her desk. Her name stared back at her. Maya Brooks. 11 years of marriage reduced to signatures and legal terms. She stared at the documents, her chest heavy. Her phone lit up. Ethan calling. She watched it ring. Once, twice, 3 times. She didn't answer. The call ended. A few seconds later, a text came in. Ethan, running late. Don't wait up. Maya stared at the message. Then a hollow laugh escaped her. Don't wait up. The words landed strangely, because somewhere deep inside, a painful truth surfaced. She had already stopped waiting for him to notice, waiting for deeper conversations, waiting for emotional closeness, waiting to feel chosen in ways that had nothing to do with money, stability, or routine. She picked up the pen. Her hand felt strangely calm. That frightened her. She remembered a version of herself who would have cried uncontrollably. A version who would have begged to fix things. A version who believed love alone could repair everything. That version of Maya was gone. She signed 1 signature, then another, then the last. It was done. The sound of the pen leaving paper felt louder than thunder. Maya stared at the documents. No tears came. That scared her most, because tears meant something still lived there. But this felt like grief after grief had already done its worst. Quiet, heavy, still, inner thought. Maya, I think I've been mourning this marriage long before tonight. She closed her eyes. A memory surfaced. Ethan laughing in their tiny first apartment, music playing, dancing badly in the kitchen, burnt pasta on the stove, his hands around her waist, both of them laughing until tears filled their eyes. Back then, love felt easy, not perfect, but alive. So alive. When had that changed? When did warmth become distance? When did comfort become loneliness? She opened her eyes. The office felt colder now. She packed the papers into her bag and stood. Tonight felt like an ending. But strangely, it also felt like truth. By the time Maya got home, it was 8:53 p.m. The house was spotless, beautiful, modern, expensive, and painfully quiet. Their dream home. The house they once celebrated buying with champagne and happy tears. Now it felt like a museum, beautiful on the outside, emotionless inside. Maya placed her bag carefully on the kitchen counter. She stood still, listening. Nothing. Silence. She looked around the kitchen. Every detail was polished. Granite countertops, designer lighting, fresh flowers, a perfect home, a hollow marriage. The contradiction stung. People envied their life. Friends admired them. Family called them the ideal couple. They had everything people thought guaranteed happiness, money, security, success, stability. But none of those things could compensate for emotional disconnection. Because loneliness inside marriage feels different, heavier, crueler. You're not alone. Yet somehow, you are. The front door opened at 9:47 p.m. Maya looked up. Ethan walked in. Tall, sharp, still handsome, in a quiet, understated way. His tie was loose. His shoulders tense with exhaustion. He looked drained. He spotted her. A small smile appeared. Hey. Maya looked at him. Hey. He exhaled. Sorry. Crazy day. She nodded. He stepped closer and kissed her forehead absent-mindedly. The gesture was familiar, automatic, routine, not cruel, just disconnected. He headed toward the fridge. How was your day? The question hung in the air. Maya watched him open the fridge. Grab water, take a drink, check his phone, reply to something. All while waiting for her answer, the familiar ache returned. Because Ethan asked this question every night. And almost every night. He wasn't truly present enough to hear the answer. Fine, Maya said quietly. He nodded without looking up. Good. That one word shattered something small inside her. Again, a long silence filled the kitchen. Then Maya spoke. Ethan. He looked up. Yeah? Her heart pounded. This was dangerous territory, but she asked anyway. Are you happy? He blinked. What? She held his gaze. Are you happy? Confusion crossed his face. Where's this coming from? Just answer. He frowned, then shrugged slightly. I mean, yeah. I think so. He studied her now, concern growing. Why? Maya stared at him. This was it. A door. A moment. Maybe the last chance for truth. She could say everything. That she felt invisible. That she felt emotionally abandoned. That she missed him even while standing in front of him. Instead, she asked softly, when was the last time you really looked at me? Ethan frowned. I'm looking at you right now. A sad smile touched her lips. No, she shook her head. You're not. Confusion deepened in his eyes. I don't understand what you want me to say. The words pierced her. Because that had always been the problem. Ethan approached emotions like problems to solve. Logical, practical, efficient. But love wasn't a spreadsheet. Sometimes love required presence, not solutions. Understanding, not fixing. Maya swallowed hard. I'm tired, Ethan. His face softened. Then get some sleep. Another miss. Another moment gone. Maya almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because pain had become painfully predictable. She nodded slowly. Yeah. He stepped closer now. Genuine concern in his voice. Maya, are you okay? She looked at him. Really looked at him. The man she had loved for 11 years. A good man. A loyal man. A hard-working man. A man who never cheated. Never abused her. Never intentionally caused harm. And yet, she had never felt more alone. That realization hurt more than anger ever could. Because Ethan wasn't evil. He was simply unaware. And unawareness can wound just as deeply. She forced a small smile. Yes, it was the biggest lie she had told in years. That night, Ethan fell asleep in less than 10 minutes. Maya lay beside him in silence, eyes fixed on the ceiling, listening to the familiar rhythm of his breathing. The room was dark, except for the faint glow of city lights filtering through the curtains. Beside her, Ethan slept peacefully, unaware that his wife had signed divorce papers only hours earlier. Unaware that grief had lived in their marriage for far longer than either of them realized. Unaware that silence had slowly become the loudest thing between them. Maya turned slightly, studying his sleeping face. Even now, looking at him hurt. Because love was still there. That was the cruel part. She still loved him. But love had become heavy, exhausting, lonely. In a thought, Maya, how did we get here? The question haunted her. Her mind drifted backward, back to the beginning. 11 years earlier, a coffee shop downtown, rainy afternoon. Maya had been 26, bright-eyed, ambitious, warm. Ethan was 28. Quiet confidence, sharp mind, gentle smile. They met by accident, or what felt like accident. Maya had spilled coffee on herself while rushing to grab her order. Ethan happened to be standing nearby. He handed her napkins with an amused smile. "You okay?" Maya laughed awkwardly. "This is deeply embarrassing." His smile widened. "I've seen worse." She raised an eyebrow. "You're lying." He grinned. Maybe. That smile. That calm presence. Something about him felt grounding. Safe. Steady. Different from the charismatic, emotionally unavailable men she had dated before. Ethan wasn't flashy. He wasn't loud. He wasn't charming in an obvious way. But he listened. Really listened. And Maya noticed. On their first date, they sat in a small restaurant talking for 4 hours. 4 hours. No phones, no distractions. Just conversation. Dreams. Family. Childhood. Fear. Ambition. Pain. She remembered how Ethan looked at her then. Focused. Intent. Present, like every word mattered. He noticed everything. When her voice changed. When her smile faded. When her energy shifted. He paid attention. That was what made her fall. Not grand gestures. Presence. He made her feel seen. Maya smiled sadly at the memory. That version of them felt like another lifetime. Back then, Ethan would notice everything. He'd text her in the middle of the day. "You okay? Something feels off." And somehow, he was always right. She remembered one night vividly. They had been dating 8 months. Maya was overwhelmed from graduate school and family stress. She tried hiding it, pretending she was fine. But Ethan looked at her across dinner and said quietly, "Talk to me." She blinked. "What?" He leaned forward. "You've been pretending all night." Her composure cracked instantly. She burst into tears. Ethan didn't panic, didn't offer quick solutions, didn't rush to fix anything. He simply moved beside her, held her hand, stayed, for hours. He listened. That night, Maya had thought, "This is the man I want to marry." And she did. 3 years later, a beautiful spring wedding. Family, friends, promises, tears, joy. She remembered Ethan's vows clearly. His voice had shaken with emotion. "I promise to keep choosing you. Even when life gets hard, even when we change, I promise to keep learning you." Maya closed her eyes. Pain tightened in her chest. What happened to that promise? The truth was, nothing dramatic happened. That was what made it harder to explain. There was no betrayal, no affair, no huge explosion. Just life. Slowly, quietly, relentlessly. Ethan's career took off. Longer hours, bigger responsibilities, more pressure, more stress. Maya's own career grew demanding too. Schedules got busier. Days moved faster. Dinner conversations became shorter. Date nights became less frequent. Intimacy became inconsistent. Not overnight. Little by little. So slowly, they barely noticed. Until the shift became their new normal. At first, Maya tried. She tried hard. She initiated conversations, planned dates, spoke about how disconnected she felt. But Ethan always responded the same way. Practical, logical, efficient, like he was fixing problems at work. If she said, "I miss us," he'd reply, "Okay, let's plan a vacation." If she said, "I feel distant from you," he'd say, "We're both busy right now, things will settle." If she cried, he became uncomfortable. Not cold, just uneasy. Like he didn't know what to do with emotions that couldn't be solved quickly. At first, Maya gave grace. He was stressed, busy, tired. She understood. But eventually, understanding turned into loneliness. Because she didn't need perfect solutions. She needed emotional presence. She needed him to stay in the discomfort, to listen, to ask deeper questions, to notice. But over time, he stopped noticing. And, eventually, she stopped speaking. Because rejection doesn't always look like harsh words. Sometimes it looks like being repeatedly unseen, repeatedly unheard, repeatedly emotionally unmet, until silence feels safer than vulnerability. Maya stared at the ceiling. Tears slid quietly into her hair. Beside her, Ethan shifted in his sleep. He reached toward her, unconsciously. His hand landed lightly on her arm. The gesture nearly broke her. Even now, his body remembered closeness. Even now, some part of him reached for her. And somehow, that hurt more. Because he wasn't heartless. He loved her. She knew that. But love without awareness can still wound deeply. Inner thought, Maya, maybe that's what hurts the most. You love me, but not in the way I need. A tear slipped down her cheek. She slowly moved his hand away. Her chest tightened. The final truth settled heavily inside her. She had spent years asking herself one painful question. Am I asking for too much? Too much emotional intimacy? Too much vulnerability? Too much presence? Tonight, for the first time, the answer felt clear. No, she wasn't asking for too much. She was asking the wrong person to love her in a language he no longer understood. That realization shattered her. And strangely, freed her. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, Ethan would know. Tomorrow, silence would finally break. And nothing between them would ever be the same again. Before we move into chapter 2, I want to ask you something. Have you ever been in a relationship where the silence hurt more than words ever could? Where everything looked fine on the outside, but deep down, something was breaking? Maya still loves Ethan. But love alone isn't always enough when emotional distance keeps growing. The painful truth is, many relationships don't end because of betrayal. They end because two people slowly stop seeing each other. So tell me, in the comments, do you think Ethan truly loves Maya? Or has he been taking her for granted for far too long? And if you were Maya, would you stay and keep fighting? Or would you walk away? Let me know your thoughts. And if this story is touching you already, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because chapter 2 is where everything starts to unravel. You do not want to miss what happens next. There was a time when Maya said everything. Every feeling, every disappointment, every unmet need, every fear. She believed honesty could save love. She believed communication fixed distance. She believed if two people loved each other enough, they could work through anything. So she talked. Again, and again, and again, until one day, she stopped. Not because she no longer cared, but because caring had become exhausting. The next morning, Maya woke before sunrise. The house was silent. Ethan still slept peacefully beside her. She studied him for a moment. A strange calm settled over her. Not peace, not exactly. More like emotional exhaustion finally reaching its limit. There was no panic now. No uncertainty. Only truth. Today, everything would change. She got out of bed quietly and moved toward the kitchen. Coffee. Routine. Normalcy. The ordinary ritual felt almost cruel. How strange that life kept moving, even when everything inside you was shifting. She wrapped both hands around her mug. Warmth spread through her fingers. Her mind drifted again, back through years of conversations. Years of trying. Years of asking to be seen. 3 years ago, a Friday night, Maya had planned dinner at home. Candles, soft music, Ethan's favorite meal. She wanted reconnection. Real connection. Not just routine. Ethan came home late. Exhausted. Distracted. Laptop still in hand. He barely noticed the candles. "Hey babe," he said absent-mindedly. Maya smiled gently. "I made dinner." He glanced toward the table. "Wow, this looks nice." But even as he said it, his phone buzzed. He checked it immediately. Typed a reply. Maya watched silently, a familiar ache rising. During dinner, Ethan spoke mostly about work. A difficult client. A delayed project. Team problems. Maya listened. She always listened. Then, during a quiet moment, she spoke carefully. "I miss you." Ethan looked up, confused. "What do you mean? I'm right here." Maya exhaled slowly. "No, I mean us." His brow furrowed. "What's wrong?" She chose her words carefully. "I feel like we've become roommates." He blinked, then leaned back. "We're just busy right now." She held his gaze. "It feels like more than busy." Ethan sighed. "Maya." That tone, not angry, just tired, already defensive. She felt herself shrinking. Still, she tried. "I feel disconnected from you." Ethan rubbed his forehead. "Okay. So what do you want us to do?" There it was. The same pattern. Problem. Solution. Checklist. Fix. Maya's voice softened. I don't need a quick fix. He frowned. Then what do you need? She swallowed. You. Silence. I need you present. Ethan stared at her, clearly confused. I'm here. Her chest tightened. He still didn't understand. She fought tears. No, Ethan. Not physically. Silence stretched. Then Ethan said something that stayed with her for years. I don't know what you want from me. The words hit like a knife, because she didn't know how to explain something so basic. She wanted emotional presence, attention, intentional connection. She wanted to feel like her inner world mattered. Instead, she felt like an unsolved equation frustrating him. That night ended quietly. No fight, no yelling, just silence, the dangerous kind. Maya returned to the present. Her coffee had gone cold. She barely noticed. That wasn't the only conversation. There were dozens, maybe hundreds. Small moments, big moments, missed opportunities, warnings. Ethan never fully understood. She remembered another night, 1 year ago. She had come home emotionally drained after losing a long-time client to suicide. Her heart felt shattered, heavy, raw. She sat on the couch in tears. Ethan came in and immediately noticed. Concern crossed his face. What happened? She struggled to speak. One of my clients. He's gone. Ethan's face softened. Oh, she cried harder. The grief was overwhelming. Ethan sat beside her, but within seconds, his discomfort showed. He rubbed her back awkwardly. Then he said, You did your best. She nodded through tears. But she needed more. Needed presence. Needed emotional safety. Needed him to sit in the pain with her. Instead, minutes later, do you want me to order food? Maya closed her eyes. Even now the memory hurt. Not because food was wrong. Not because he was cruel. Because once again, he moved toward solving instead of staying. Toward doing instead of feeling. She remembered thinking, inner thought, Maya, why does loving me emotionally feel so hard for you? That thought scared her. Because resentment had started growing. And resentment was dangerous. Not loud at first. Quiet. Slow. Poisonous. It built through small disappointments. Unmet needs. Unspoken pain. Until eventually, love began carrying hurt. Maya stared out the kitchen window. Morning light slowly filled the sky. She realized something painful. The real problem wasn't only Ethan's emotional blind spots. It was what happened inside her because of them. She stopped asking. Stopped trying. Stopped reaching. Not all at once. Little by little. She stopped saying, I miss you. Stopped saying, I need you. Stopped saying, I feel lonely. Stopped saying, please, notice me. Because vulnerability feels unbearable when it repeatedly meets misunderstanding. So eventually, silence feels safer. But silence changes things. When people stop speaking their pain, pain doesn't disappear. It goes inward. It hardens. And once pain hardens, distance becomes inevitable. Maya exhaled slowly. Upstairs, she heard movement. Ethan was awake. The final day had begun. Today, the silence would end. Ethan stood in front of the bathroom mirror, adjusting his tie. Same routine. Same morning. Same motions repeated so many times they no longer required thought. Yet, something felt off. Subtle. Unsettling. Like walking into a familiar room, and sensing something had changed, even if you couldn't immediately explain what. He glanced toward the doorway. Maya had barely spoken during breakfast. Not unusual. At least, that's what he told himself. Still, something felt different. She had been quiet before, but this quiet felt heavier, intentional, almost final. He frowned. Maybe he was overthinking. Work had been brutal lately. Too many deadlines, too much pressure, too little sleep. Maybe stress was making him imagine things. He grabbed his watch and headed downstairs. Maya stood near the kitchen counter. Coffee untouched. Eyes distant. Beautiful. Calm. Unreadable. Ethan studied her for a moment. Something tightened in his chest. You okay? Maya looked up. Their eyes met. For a brief second, something passed through her expression. Sadness. Maybe grief. Then, it disappeared. She gave a small nod. I'm fine. Ethan held her gaze. Usually, that answer ended things. But something inside him resisted moving on. He stepped closer. Maya. She waited. His voice softened. Talk to me. The words surprised even him. Maya stared at him. Her expression shifted. Not relief. Not comfort. Something far sadder. A tired smile touched her lips. Now, you want to talk? The question landed harder than he expected. Ethan frowned. What does that mean? She looked away. Nothing. That one word unsettled him. Nothing. He suddenly hated that word. Because he knew enough about Maya to understand one thing. Nothing rarely meant nothing. He moved closer. Maya, if something's wrong, tell me. She let out a quiet breath, then looked at him again. And for the first time in a long time, Ethan saw something in her eyes that shook him. Emotional distance, not anger, not frustration. Distance, cold, quiet distance. His chest tightened. Did I do something? Maya was silent for a moment. Then, she said softly, "That's the problem, Ethan." He stared. "I don't understand." A bitter sadness flickered across her face. "I know." She picked up her bag. "I have to go." Ethan instinctively reached for her wrist. Not forcefully, just enough to stop her. "Maya." She stopped. His voice dropped. "Please. Talk to me." Silence. Then, slowly, she turned, and what Ethan saw in her face unsettled him deeply. Exhaustion. Not physical, emotional. The kind of exhaustion that comes from carrying invisible weight for too long. When she spoke, her voice was calm. Too calm. "Do you know what hurts the most?" Ethan swallowed. "No." Her eyes held his. "You keep asking what's wrong." A pause. "But you never notice until I'm already drowning." The words hit him like ice water. His grip loosened. He stared. Maya continued. Still calm. Still painfully composed. "I've spent years trying to tell you what I need." Ethan blinked. "Maya." She shook her head. "No, listen." Something in her voice silenced him. Her eyes glistened now, but her voice remained steady. "I told you when I felt lonely. I told you when I felt disconnected. I told you when I missed us." A tear slipped down her cheek. "And every time, you treated my pain like a problem to solve." Ethan's chest tightened painfully. "That's not fair." The words left before he could stop them. Instantly, Maya's face changed. Not anger. Something worse. Disappointment. Deep disappointment. She gave a slow nod. "There it is." Ethan frowned. "What?" She looked at him with heartbreaking clarity. "The defensiveness." His jaw tightened. "I'm not defensive." Maya gave a hollow laugh. "You don't even hear yourself." Frustration rose inside him. Not because he wanted to fight, because he genuinely felt lost. "I'm trying here, Maya." She stared at him. Then said quietly, "No, Ethan." A painful pause. "You're reacting." That sentence hit him harder than he expected. He opened his mouth, closed it. Maya wiped her tears. Her voice softened now, and somehow that softness hurt more. "I know you love me." Ethan's chest tightened. "I do." She nodded. "I know." A pause. But love isn't always enough. Silence filled the kitchen. Ethan felt his heartbeat pounding. Fear stirred in his chest. Real fear. Because suddenly, this didn't feel like another difficult conversation. This felt bigger. Much bigger. He stepped toward her. "Maya, what are you saying?" Her eyes filled with tears. And then she said the words that changed everything. "I can't do this anymore." The world seemed to stop. Ethan stared. His mind struggled to process what he had just heard. "What?" Her voice broke slightly, but her eyes never left his. "I'm tired, Ethan." A tear rolled down her cheek. "I'm tired of begging to be emotionally seen." His pulse thundered. "No." The word escaped him immediately. Like instinct. Like denial. "No." Maya closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them again, the pain in them was unbearable. "I filed for divorce." Silence. Absolute silence. Ethan stared at her. The words didn't register. They couldn't. His mind rejected them. Divorce? No. No, that made no sense. This was Maya. His wife. His marriage. His life. His voice came out hoarse. "What?" Maya's tears fell freely now, but she stood firm. "I filed yesterday." The room tilted. Ethan felt like all the air had vanished. His voice cracked. "No." Disbelief. Shock. Panic. All at once. "No, Maya." She looked shattered, but certain. And that certainty terrified him, because for the first time in 11 years, Ethan realized he might actually lose her. And the most horrifying part, he had never truly seen this coming. Ethan couldn't breathe. The kitchen suddenly felt too small, too quiet, too suffocating. His heart slammed violently against his chest as Maya's words echoed in his mind. "I filed for divorce." No, no. This had to be some kind of misunderstanding. A threat. An emotional reaction. Anything but real. He stared at Maya, as if looking at a stranger. But she wasn't a stranger. She was his wife. The woman he had built 11 years of life with. The woman he still came home to every night. The woman sleeping beside him just hours ago. How could she be standing here telling him their marriage was over? His voice came out strained. No. Maya stood still. Tears glistened in her eyes. But she didn't take the words back. Ethan shook his head. No, Maya. His breathing grew shallow. You're upset. I get that. We can fix this. Maya's expression tightened. That word. Fix. Even now, he still didn't understand. Ethan stepped closer. Panic sharpened every word. We'll go to therapy. No response. We'll take time off. Silence. We'll travel. Ethan. Her voice stopped him cold. He froze. Maya's tears fell quietly. Her voice trembled now. Not from uncertainty, from exhaustion. You still don't hear me. His frustration flared. How can you say that? Emotion cracked through his voice. I'm standing here telling you I'll do whatever it takes. Maya stared at him. Pain flooded her face, and then she asked softly, Why now? The question stunned him. What? She held his gaze. Why now? Her tears continued falling. Why are you suddenly ready to fight for us now? Ethan blinked. His mouth opened. No words came. Maya's voice shook. Why not 6 months ago? A painful pause. Why not a year ago? Another pause. Why not the first time I told you I felt lonely? Each question landed like a blow. Ethan stood frozen. Maya stepped closer now. For the first time, all the pain she had buried began surfacing. Raw, honest, devastating. Do you know how many nights I cried beside you? His chest tightened. How many mornings I woke up feeling emotionally empty? She shook her head. How many times I tried to tell you I was drowning? Ethan swallowed hard. His voice broke. I didn't know. Maya let out a painful laugh through tears. I know. Silence. The words crushed him, because they carried something terrifying. Truth. She wasn't accusing him of cruelty. She was exposing something worse. His blindness. His unawareness. Maya wiped at her tears. Her voice softened, and somehow that softness felt unbearable. You loved me the way you knew how. She pressed a hand against her chest. But I spent years starving emotionally. Ethan's breathing grew uneven. No. Tears burned behind his eyes now. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be real. He had worked hard. He had been loyal. He provided. He stayed faithful. He showed up. Wasn't that what being a good husband meant? His voice shook. I loved you. Maya nodded immediately. I know. That response shattered him. Because there was no hatred in her. No bitterness. Just heartbreaking sadness. I never doubted that you loved me. She paused. I doubted whether you truly saw me. Silence. Ethan felt something inside him begin to crack. Maya looked at him with tear-filled eyes. You saw responsibilities. You saw routines. You saw stability. Her voice broke. But you stopped seeing me. Tears blurred Ethan's vision. His voice cracked. That's not true. Maya's expression twisted in pain. Then tell me something. A pause. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. What have I been carrying lately? Ethan froze. She held his gaze. What's been weighing on me? His mind raced. He opened his mouth. Nothing came. Maya waited. Seconds passed. The silence was unbearable. Ethan felt panic rising. He searched desperately for something. Anything. But all he found was emptiness. He didn't know. God, he didn't know. Maya nodded slowly. Exactly as if she expected this. And somehow, that hurt more. Her voice was barely above a whisper now. That's what I mean. Ethan felt his chest cave in. Because suddenly, he understood. Not fully, but enough. Enough to feel the terrifying truth. He had stopped paying attention. Stopped noticing. Stopped asking deeper questions. Somewhere between deadlines, stress, routines, and responsibilities. He had become emotionally absent, and he hadn't even realized it. His knees felt weak. He sank into a chair, hands trembling. His voice broke completely. How did I miss this? Maya stared at him, tears streaming silently. Then she said the words that shattered him. You stopped being curious about me. Silence, pure silence. Ethan lowered his head. Those words cut deeper than anger ever could. Because curiosity, that was exactly what they used to have. He used to ask about everything. Her dreams, her fears, her thoughts, her moods, her heart. He used to know her deeply. So when had that stopped? And worse, how had he not noticed? For the first time in years, Ethan wasn't defending himself. He wasn't fixing. He wasn't reacting. He was simply sitting inside the painful truth. And it was destroying him. The silence between them felt unbearable, heavy, sacred, painful. Ethan sat motionless at the kitchen table, elbows on his knees, hands trembling. For the first time in a long time, he had nothing to say. No defense, no solutions, no explanations, just silence. And inside that silence, something painful was happening. He was listening. Really listening. Maybe for the first time in years. Maya stood a few feet away. Tears dried on her cheeks. Her breathing shaky. Her heart exhausted. She had imagined this conversation 1,000 times. In anger. In sadness. In tears. But now that it was happening, she felt strangely calm. Not because it didn't hurt. Because the truth had finally become unavoidable. Ethan slowly lifted his head. His voice was quiet. Raw. What did I miss? Maya looked at him. A bitter sadness touched her face. Then she asked softly, "Do you really want to know?" Ethan nodded immediately. Yes. She studied him for a long moment, making sure, because once she said this out loud, there would be no going back. Then she spoke, slowly, carefully, honestly. "You missed me." Ethan froze. Maya swallowed hard. "You missed the woman standing right in front of you." Tears welled again. "You missed when I stopped laughing as much. You missed when I started feeling emotionally tired. You missed when I stopped sharing parts of myself." Her voice shook. "You missed when silence became easier than honesty." Ethan stared at her, his chest tightening with every word. Maya continued, "And years of buried pain began pouring out. I stopped telling you about my hard days. Stopped telling you when something hurt me. Stopped telling you when I felt lonely." She wiped her tears. "Because once truth starts coming, it doesn't stop. You know what hurt the most?" A pause. "It wasn't that you were busy. It wasn't the long hours. It wasn't even the distance." Her voice cracked. "It was feeling like my emotional world stopped mattering to you." Ethan flinched. Like each word physically hurt. Maya pressed on. "Because she had to. I became convenient in your life." The sentence hung heavily. Ethan whispered, "No." Maya nodded sadly. "Yes." Her eyes locked onto his. "You loved me." A pause. "But eventually, you stopped learning me." That sentence shattered the air. Maya's voice softened. "When we first met, you noticed everything." A small, broken smile touched her lips. "You used to hear sadness in my voice, before I said a word. You'd ask questions. You'd stay curious. You wanted to know me." Tears rolled down her cheeks. But somewhere along the way, the smile disappeared. "You got comfortable." Silence. Painful silence. "You assumed I'd always be here." Ethan's breathing became ragged. "No." His voice cracked. "I never—" Maya shook her head. "I know you didn't mean to." Her voice broke. "That's what makes this harder." A tear slipped down Ethan's cheek. Maya's eyes softened. Because she knew. She knew he wasn't cruel. She knew he wasn't malicious. She knew he loved her in the only way he knew how. And maybe that was the tragedy. Sometimes people hurt each other not through cruelty, but through emotional limitation. Maya took a shaky breath. "I spent years asking myself if I was asking for too much." Her voice dropped. "Too much intimacy. Too much presence. Too much emotional connection." She placed a hand over her heart. "I kept shrinking my needs to make things easier for you." Ethan closed his eyes. Pain crashed through him. Maya continued. "But love shouldn't require becoming smaller to be loved comfortably." That sentence broke something inside Ethan. Tears fell freely now. His shoulders shook. For the first time in years, he cried. Not quietly. Not controlled. Raw grief. Raw shame. Raw heartbreak. Maya watched him. Her own tears returned. Ethan dragged a hand over his face. His voice shattered. "I failed you." Maya's lips trembled. Silence. Then Ethan said something he had never admitted before. Something buried deep beneath years of emotional distance. "I didn't know how." Maya frowned softly. Ethan's voice cracked. "I didn't know how to give you what you needed." His chest heaved. Emotion poured out. Messy, unfiltered, painfully human. "My whole life." He swallowed hard. "I learned that love meant responsibility. Protection. Providing. Fixing problems." He shook his head, crying. "I thought if I worked hard, stayed loyal, built a stable life." His voice broke. "That meant I was loving you well." Tears streamed down his face. "But I never realized." A painful pause. His voice dropped. "You were starving right beside me." Maya's tears flowed silently. Ethan's face crumpled. "And I didn't even see it." The grief in his voice was unbearable. Maya slowly sat across from him. Neither spoke. Just breathing. Just pain. Just truth. Then Maya asked quietly, "Why is vulnerability so hard for you?" The question landed deeply. Ethan stared downward, silent, thinking, really thinking. And after a long moment, he whispered, "Because I was taught it made me weak." Maya said nothing. Ethan continued, voice low, broken. "My father never talked about emotions." A bitter laugh escaped him. Everything was handled with silence, work, or anger. He swallowed. If something hurt, you buried it. Maya listened quietly. Ethan's eyes filled again. "I never learned how to sit with pain." A pause. Mine, or anyone else's. The truth settled heavily between them. Maya's heart ached, because now she saw it, not as excuse, as understanding. The little boy inside Ethan had grown into a man who loved deeply, but emotionally hid from discomfort. Maya whispered, "That's not your fault." Ethan looked at her. Pain everywhere. She continued softly, "But healing from it is your responsibility." Silence. Ethan nodded slowly. Because she was right. Pain explained behavior. It did not excuse harm. For the first time in years, they were finally seeing each other clearly. And somehow, that clarity hurt more than all the silence before. The house felt unfamiliar after Maya left. Too quiet, too empty, too still. Ethan sat alone in the kitchen, long after the conversation ended. The same kitchen, the same house, the same life. And yet, everything had changed. Hours ago, he believed his marriage was stable. Not perfect, but stable. Safe. Now that illusion was gone. Shattered. And, in the silence Maya left behind, Ethan faced something terrifying. Himself. He barely remembered going upstairs. Barely remembered changing clothes. Barely remembered lying in bed. The bed felt enormous now. Cold. The space beside him was empty. Painfully empty. Ethan stared at the ceiling, wide awake. His chest felt heavy. Maya's words played on repeat inside his mind. "You stopped being curious about me. You were loving me. But I was starving emotionally. Love shouldn't require becoming smaller to be loved comfortably." Every word cut deeper now. Because the worst part wasn't that Maya hated him. She didn't. The worst part was knowing she had suffered in silence while he remained completely unaware. That truth was unbearable. Ethan closed his eyes. But sleep refused to come. Instead, memories flooded in. Small moments, conversations, missed opportunities. All the times Maya tried to reach him. All the times he missed it. All the times he thought things were fine. His chest tightened painfully. How had he been so blind? How? At 3:17 a.m., Ethan gave up on sleep. He walked downstairs. The house felt hollow. He moved into the kitchen, then stopped. Maya's coffee mug still sat near the counter, half full, untouched. Something about that mug broke him, because suddenly it represented everything. All the little things he stopped noticing. He slowly sat down, buried his face in his hands, and cried. Not controlled tears, not quiet tears. The kind of tears that come when denial finally dies. Years of emotional numbness cracked open, and grief poured out. Grief for Maya. Grief for himself. Grief for the marriage he might have destroyed without ever intending to. His breathing became shaky. A terrifying truth settled over him. He had spent years believing he was a good husband. And by many standards, he was. He never cheated, never lied, never abused her. He worked hard, provided, stayed loyal, protected their life. So, why did it feel like he had failed completely? The answer came painfully. Because being a good man and being a good partner were not always the same thing. That realization shook him. He leaned back slowly, staring blankly ahead. His reflection stared back at him from the dark kitchen window. And for the first time in years, he truly looked at himself. What did he see? A successful architect. Respected, disciplined, reliable, controlled, efficient, strong. That's how the world saw him. But underneath, he saw something else now. A man deeply uncomfortable with emotions. A man who avoided vulnerability without even realizing it. A man who mistook emotional control for emotional maturity. His jaw tightened. Because Maya was right. Whenever emotions became complicated, he shifted into problem-solving mode. Fix, resolve, move forward. Anything except sitting inside discomfort. Anything except vulnerability. He whispered to himself, "When did I become like this?" The answer came immediately. Much earlier than his marriage. Much earlier than Maya. His mind drifted backward. Childhood. His father. Ethan was 8 years old when he fell off his bike. Hard. Skin torn. Knee bleeding. Pain exploded through his body. He cried. Loudly. His father walked over, looked down. Expression unreadable. Then said 4 words Ethan never forgot. "Get up. You're fine. No comfort. No softness, no reassurance, just instruction. Get up, you're fine. Ethan remembered wiping his tears instantly, swallowing pain, standing, pretending he was okay. Because weakness wasn't encouraged, it was dismissed. That became the pattern. When he lost his first basketball championship and cried, his father said, "Crying won't change the score." When his grandfather died and he looked shattered, his father said, "Be strong for your mother." When heartbreak hit at 16, his father said, "You move on." No conversations about feelings, no emotional language, no vulnerability. Pain was managed through silence, work, control, distance. Ethan swallowed hard. His chest tightened. God, he had built his entire identity around emotional suppression. He learned early, don't feel too much, don't stay in pain, solve the problem, keep moving. And he carried that into adulthood, into marriage, into love. He loved Maya deeply, but when her emotions became complex, he unconsciously responded with the only tools he knew. Fix it quickly, reduce discomfort, move forward, avoid emotional chaos. His breathing slowed. A painful realization surfaced. He wasn't emotionally absent because he didn't care. He was emotionally limited because he never learned how. That truth hurt, but it also exposed something important. What he lacked could be learned, if he was willing, if it wasn't too late. And that was the terrifying question. Was it already too late? The next morning, Ethan called in sick. That had never happened before. Not in 5 years. Not once. Work had always been his refuge. The place where things made sense. Problems had solutions. Blueprints could be corrected. Structures could be reinforced. Everything followed logic. Unlike this, there was no blueprint for a collapsing marriage. No clean fix. No efficient solution. Just pain. Raw and disorienting. Ethan sat at the edge of the bed, staring at his phone. His thumb hovered over a contact he hadn't called in years. Dr. Samuel Carter, a therapist. Maya had suggested therapy before, more than once. Ethan always dismissed it. Not aggressively, just with quiet resistance. He told himself he didn't need it, that he could handle things alone. That therapy was unnecessary. Now, sitting in the ruins of his certainty, that belief felt hollow. He pressed call. That afternoon, Ethan sat across from Dr. Carter. The office felt calm. Warm lighting. Bookshelves. Soft silence. It felt uncomfortable. Too quiet. Too open. Dr. Carter studied him calmly. A man in his 60s. Steady eyes. Gentle voice. No pressure. No judgment. Just presence. Ethan shifted in his seat. This already felt unnatural. Dr. Carter spoke first. "What brings you here today?" Ethan let out a bitter laugh. "My wife filed for divorce." Silence. Dr. Carter nodded slowly. "How are you feeling?" Ethan opened his mouth, then froze. The question felt absurdly difficult. How was he feeling? His instinctive answer rose immediately. Fine. Always fine. But the word felt impossible now. He looked down. His voice came out rough. "I don't know." Dr. Carter nodded. That's honest. Something about that response unsettled Ethan, because no one had ever praised not knowing. Dr. Carter leaned back slightly. "Tell me what happened." And for the next hour, Ethan talked, really talked, more than he had in years. He told him about Maya, about the divorce, about the painful conversation, about her loneliness, about his confusion, his guilt, his shame, his fear. When he finished, silence settled between them. Dr. Carter finally asked, "What's hurting most right now?" Ethan swallowed hard, then answered without thinking, "That I hurt someone I love, without even realizing it." His voice cracked. "I thought I was a good husband." Dr. Carter studied him, then asked quietly, "What does being a good husband mean to you?" Ethan answered immediately, "Providing, protecting, being loyal, working hard." Dr. Carter nodded. "Anything else?" Ethan frowned. Silence. Dr. Carter spoke gently. "What about emotional intimacy?" The words landed heavily. Ethan shifted, his discomfort rising. Dr. Carter noticed. "That question makes you uncomfortable." Ethan exhaled. "Yes. Why?" Silence. Then Ethan whispered, "Because I don't think I understand it." Dr. Carter nodded. "That's an important realization." He leaned forward slightly. "Tell me something, Ethan. When Maya was in pain, what happened inside you?" Ethan frowned, confused. "What do you mean?" Dr. Carter's voice remained calm. "What did you feel emotionally when she cried or expressed pain?" Ethan thought carefully. Then slowly, understanding began. His chest tightened. Pressure. Dr. Carter nodded. What kind of pressure? Ethan swallowed. To fix it. A pause. To make it stop. His voice grew quieter. To solve whatever was wrong as fast as possible. Dr. Carter held his gaze. Why? The question landed deeply. Ethan stared at the floor, thinking. Then the answer surfaced. Raw. Painful. Because her pain made me uncomfortable. Silence. The truth settled heavily. Dr. Carter spoke softly. That's honest. Ethan ran a hand over his face. Shame flooded him. That sounds horrible. No, Dr. Carter said gently. It sounds human. Ethan looked up. Dr. Carter continued. But discomfort becomes harmful when it consistently causes emotional avoidance. That sentence landed hard. Dr. Carter leaned back. You weren't responding to Maya's pain. A pause. You were responding to your discomfort around her pain. Ethan froze. His chest tightened. The words struck with terrifying precision. God, that was exactly it. Every time Maya opened up emotionally, something activated inside him. Restlessness, urgency, pressure, discomfort. And his instinct became immediate. Make this stop. Fix it. Move forward. Reduce emotional intensity. Dr. Carter continued. That prevented emotional intimacy. Ethan whispered. How? Dr. Carter answered simply. Because emotional intimacy requires presence before solutions. Silence. Then, people need to feel understood before they feel safe. The sentence hit Ethan like lightning. Dr. Carter continued. When Maya expressed pain, she likely needed connection first. To feel seen. To feel emotionally safe. To feel understood. A pause. But instead, you rushed toward resolution. Ethan's throat tightened. Because now, he saw it. Clearly. Painfully. Every conversation. Every missed moment. Every failed attempt. Dr. Carter's voice softened. You were trying to reduce discomfort. A pause. But intimacy often requires staying inside discomfort. Ethan stared ahead, breathing uneven. His entire understanding of love felt like it was being dismantled. Dr. Carter asked one final question. Growing up, what happened when emotions were expressed in your home? Ethan froze. The air felt heavier. His father's voice echoed in his mind. Get up. You're fine. His jaw tightened. Then quietly he said, We didn't talk about emotions. Dr. Carter nodded. Ethan's voice dropped. We avoided them. Another pause. Or buried them. He swallowed. Or solved them. A sad understanding crossed Dr. Carter's face. There it is. Silence. Dr. Carter said gently. You learned that emotions were problems to manage. A pause. Not experiences to sit with. Ethan felt tears burning again. For the first time in his life, someone had explained him to himself. And it hurt. Because now he understood. His emotional avoidance wasn't random. It was conditioning. Years of conditioning. But understanding brought responsibility. He could no longer hide behind ignorance. Now he knew. Now he saw. And now he had a choice. Stay the same, or change. Not for Maya alone. For himself. Because if he didn't learn how to feel, he would keep destroying intimacy everywhere he went. Dr. Carter's final words stayed with him long after the session ended. Awareness is painful, Ethan. A pause. But awareness is where healing begins. The first night alone felt strange. Too quiet. Too still. Too honest. Maya sat on the edge of the bed in her sister's guest room, staring at the unfamiliar walls. A small lamp glowed softly in the corner. Outside, rain tapped gently against the window. Everything was calm. And yet her chest felt unbearably heavy. She should have felt relief. She thought she would. After all, she had spent months preparing for this. Months grieving. Months imagining what it would feel like to finally leave. But reality felt different. Messier, heavier, more complicated. Because endings, even necessary ones, still hurt. She pulled her knees toward her chest. Tears slipped quietly down her face. Not dramatic tears. Not loud sobs. Just silent grief. The kind that comes when truth finally settles. 11 years. 11 years of love. Of history. Of memories. Of becoming adults together. Of building a life. And now, silence. Distance. Separation. Her heart ached. Not because she regretted leaving, but because she wished leaving had never become necessary. That was the hardest part. She never wanted divorce. She wanted change. She wanted healing. She wanted connection. She wanted Ethan to see her before she disappeared emotionally. But waiting had turned into suffering, and suffering had turned into survival. Eventually, survival demanded action. Still, pain remained. Because love doesn't disappear just because you walk away. That was the cruel truth. You can love someone deeply and still know they are hurting you. The next morning, Maya woke to the smell of coffee. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then reality returned. A heavy ache settled in her chest. She sat up slowly, exhaled. Another day, another step forward. She walked downstairs. Her older sister, Naomi, stood in the kitchen. Warm, observant, protective. Naomi looked up as Maya entered. Her expression softened instantly. "How'd you sleep?" Maya managed a small smile. "Not great." Naomi nodded knowingly. She poured coffee and slid a mug toward her. Neither spoke for a moment. Silence. Comfortable silence. Different from the silence Maya had lived with for years. This silence felt safe. Naomi finally spoke. "Do you want to talk?" Maya stared into her mug, then whispered, "I feel awful." Naomi said nothing, just listened, and somehow that alone felt healing. Maya's voice trembled. "I thought I'd feel stronger." Her eyes filled. "Instead, I feel broken." Naomi reached across the counter and gently squeezed her hand. Maya's tears came instantly. The kindness broke something open. Her voice cracked. "I still love him." Naomi nodded softly. "I know." Maya cried harder. "That's what makes this so painful." She wiped at tears. "If he was cruel, if he cheated, if he betrayed me." Her voice shook. "This would feel simpler." Naomi listened quietly. Maya exhaled shakily. "But he's not a bad man." A painful laugh escaped her. "He's a good man." Tears streamed down. "He just stopped seeing me." The room fell silent. Naomi's eyes softened with understanding. After a long pause, she asked gently, "Did you tell him everything?" Maya nodded slowly. "Yes." "And?" Maya looked away. Pain flashed across her face. "He finally listened." Naomi's expression changed, softer now, more thoughtful. Maya laughed bitterly. "Funny, isn't it?" Tears rolled down her cheeks. "He heard me only after I was done." Naomi squeezed her hand again. Maya's voice dropped. "That hurts." A pause. "It hurts so much." Silence stretched. Then Naomi asked the question Maya had secretly feared. "Do you still want the marriage?" Maya froze. Her breath caught. Because that question had no simple answer. Did she? She closed her eyes, thought carefully, then answered honestly. "I don't know." That truth hurt. Because once, the answer would have been immediate. Yes, always. Yes. But now? Now love felt complicated, entangled with pain, exhaustion, disappointment. She opened her eyes, tears fresh again. "I know I love him." A pause. "But I don't know if love is enough anymore." Naomi nodded. No judgment, no pressure, just understanding. Maya whispered, "I'm so tired." Naomi looked at her with heartbreaking clarity. Then, rest. Two simple words, but they landed deeply, because Maya realized something painful. She had spent years emotionally fighting for her marriage, years carrying invisible labor, years trying to hold two hearts together. She was exhausted, not just tired, soul tired, emotionally depleted. Naomi's voice softened. "Maya." She waited. "You've spent so long trying to save this marriage." A pause. "When was the last time you chose yourself?" The question hit hard. Maya froze. Her mind went blank, because the truth was painful. She couldn't remember. Somewhere along the way, she had stopped prioritizing herself, stopped protecting her peace, stopped honoring her own emotional needs. She became so focused on saving the relationship that she slowly abandoned herself. Tears filled her eyes again. Naomi's voice was gentle but firm. "You deserve peace too." The words shattered something inside Maya, because deep down, she didn't fully believe that. Not yet. But maybe she needed to learn. Maybe healing wasn't only about grieving Ethan. Maybe healing also meant returning to herself, to the woman she was before emotional exhaustion consumed her, to the woman who laughed easily, dreamed boldly, spoke honestly, loved fully, and perhaps most importantly, to the woman who knew her needs mattered. For the first time in a long time, Maya asked herself a different question. Not, "Can this marriage be saved?" but, "What do I need to heal?" And that question changed everything. Healing did not arrive all at once. It came quietly, in small moments, slow breaths, morning walks, unfinished thoughts, unexpected tears, and long stretches of silence where Maya finally had space to hear herself clearly. For the first few days, she mostly rested. She slept more, ate little, spoke only when necessary. Her body was catching up to years of emotional exhaustion. And exhaustion had a way of revealing truths you could no longer outrun. 3 days after leaving, Maya sat alone in a quiet park. The morning air was cool. Children laughed in the distance. Birds moved through the trees. Life continued, as if nothing had changed. But inside her, everything had changed. She sat on a wooden bench, hands wrapped around warm coffee, lost in thought. Dr. Angela Monroe's words echoed in her mind. Words from a therapy session nearly 2 years ago. A session she had almost forgotten. 2 years earlier, Maya sat across from Dr. Monroe, exhausted and emotionally drained. At the time, she had gone to therapy hoping to learn how to save her marriage. Instead, the sessions slowly began revealing something deeper, something uncomfortable. Dr. Monroe had asked her a question that completely caught her off guard. "Maya, why do you stay silent?" Maya frowned. "I'm not silent." Dr. Monroe tilted her head slightly. "No?" Maya crossed her arms. "I communicate." Dr. Monroe nodded calmly. "Yes." A pause. "But only until you feel misunderstood." Silence. Maya's chest tightened. Dr. Monroe continued. "Then, something shifts. You retreat. You suppress. You over-accommodate." Maya stared, because it felt uncomfortably accurate. Dr. Monroe asked gently, "What happens inside you when you feel emotionally unseen?" Maya answered without thinking. "I stop asking, why?" The question felt deeper than expected. Maya looked away. Silence stretched. Then the truth surfaced. "Painfully, because I start feeling like my needs are too much." The words shocked even her. Dr. Monroe nodded slowly. "There it is." Maya frowned. "What?" Dr. Monroe's voice softened. "You learned somewhere that expressing your needs too much could cost you connection." Silence. Maya froze. Her chest tightened. Because, suddenly, the conversation wasn't about Ethan anymore. It was about something much older, much deeper. Her childhood. Present day. Maya stared ahead as memories surfaced. She exhaled slowly. God. She understood it now, more clearly than ever. The painful truth was this. Ethan wasn't the only one carrying old patterns into their marriage. She was too. Her mind drifted back. Childhood. Age 10. She sat in the living room while her parents argued loudly in the next room. Tension filled the house constantly back then. Her mother carried stress. Her father carried silence. Emotions always felt heavy, unpredictable, unsafe. Maya learned early to read rooms quickly, to sense moods, to anticipate tension, to avoid becoming a burden. She became the easy child, the calm one, the understanding one, the emotionally mature one, the one who asked for little, the one who adapted, the one who kept peace, because peace felt safer than conflict. She whispered to herself, "I learned to shrink." The words hurt, because they were true. Even as an adult, the pattern remained. She communicated, yes, but only to a point. Once she felt repeated misunderstanding, she withdrew. She stopped pushing, stopped asking, stopped expressing. Not because her needs disappeared, because disappointment felt unbearable. So she adapted, overfunctioned, compensated, carried more emotional weight, tried harder, loved harder, until she quietly broke. A painful truth settled inside her. She had spent years blaming herself for being too emotional, too sensitive, too needy. But another truth now emerged. She had also abandoned herself, repeatedly, by staying silent after being hurt, by minimizing her own pain, by overextending grace while neglecting boundaries, by choosing peace over honesty. Tears filled her eyes, not because she hated herself, because clarity was painful, but healing. Inner thought, Maya, I kept waiting for Ethan to choose me, while I kept abandoning myself. The truth landed hard. She closed her eyes, breathing deeply. And for the first time in a long time, she felt compassion, not blame, compassion, for herself, for Ethan, for both of them. Two wounded people, two loving people, two emotionally conditioned people trying to love with incomplete tools. That realization softened something inside her. This wasn't about villains. It never was. It was about patterns, conditioning, wounds, blind spots, and emotional maturity. She opened her eyes. A strange peace settled over her. Not because everything was fixed. Nothing was fixed. But clarity changes pain. It transforms confusion into understanding. And understanding creates space for healing. Her phone buzzed. Maya glanced down. Her breath caught. A message from Ethan. The first since she left. She stared at the screen, heart pounding. The message was simple. Ethan, I started therapy today. Maya froze. Her chest tightened. She kept reading. Ethan, I'm not texting to change your mind. A pause. Another message appeared. Ethan, I just needed to say, I finally understand some of what you were trying to tell me. Tears filled her eyes instantly. Another message. Ethan, I'm sorry it took losing you to truly listen. Maya stared at the words. Emotion crashed through her. Pain, sadness, relief, grief, all at once. Because this was all she wanted for years. Not perfection, awareness, understanding, emotional honesty. And now it was happening. Only after everything had broken. Tears rolled silently down her cheeks. She stared at the screen for a long time. Then finally, she locked her phone without replying. Not out of anger, not punishment, but because she understood something now. Healing required space, real healing, for both of them. Some truths could not be rushed. Some wounds needed time. And for the first time in years, Maya was no longer focused on saving the marriage. She was focused on something deeper, healing herself, becoming whole again. And whatever happened next, she wanted it to come from clarity, not fear, not guilt, not emotional exhaustion, but truth. Before we move into chapter 6, take a moment and really think about this. How many people stay in relationships while slowly losing themselves? Maya spent years trying to save her marriage, trying to communicate, trying to be patient, trying to love harder. But somewhere along the way, she stopped choosing herself. And that's a painful truth many people live with every day. Sometimes the deepest heartbreak isn't just losing someone else. It's realizing how much of yourself you lost while trying to hold everything together. So, I want to ask you, have you ever stayed too long in a situation that was draining you emotionally? Have you ever silenced your own needs just to keep peace? Let me know in the comments. And here's another question. Do you think Ethan's change is genuine? Or is he only changing because he's finally facing loss? Can love still survive after this much emotional damage? Comment your thoughts below. And if this story is speaking to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because chapter 6 reveals the painful weight of regret. And Ethan is about to face the full impact of losing Maya. You don't want to miss what happens next. The silence in the house had changed. Before, silence had been normal, routine, easy to ignore. Now, it felt unbearable, loud, oppressive. Every room reminded Ethan of Maya. Not just her presence, her absence. And absence had weight. A crushing kind of weight. 5 days. Maya had been gone for 5 days. 5 days since she walked out. 5 days since the truth shattered everything Ethan thought he understood about love. 5 days of sleepless nights. 5 days of therapy. 5 days of sitting alone with painful clarity. And for the first time in years, Ethan wasn't running from discomfort. He was sitting in it, feeling every ounce of it. The loneliness, the grief, the regret, the shame. It all lived with him now. Saturday morning, 8:12 a.m., Ethan stood in the kitchen making coffee. Or trying to. His movements were slow, distracted, exhausted. He opened the cabinet automatically, reached for Maya's favorite mug, stopped. His hand froze. The white ceramic mug sat exactly where it always had. A tiny crack near the handle. She refused to throw it away because she said imperfections gave things character. A memory surfaced. 3 years ago, Ethan had suggested replacing it. Maya laughed and said, "You're obsessed with perfect lines." He smirked. "It's literally cracked." She smiled. "So?" He raised an eyebrow. She held the mug close. Not everything broken loses value. The memory hit like a punch. Ethan gripped the counter, breathing hard. God, how many moments had he overlooked? How many little pieces of her had he stopped noticing? The coffee machine beeped. He barely heard it. His chest felt tight. Everywhere he looked, there was Maya. Her books on the shelf. Her blanket folded neatly on the couch. Her skincare products in the bathroom. Her favorite candle near the window. Ghosts everywhere. He sat at the kitchen island. Coffee untouched. His phone buzzed. A text from work. He ignored it. Work felt meaningless lately. Deadlines, meetings, projects, none of it mattered. Not when the one person who made this house feel alive was gone. He buried his face in his hands. Then Dr. Carter's voice echoed in his mind from yesterday's session. Regret is painful, Ethan. But regret can either destroy you or transform you. He exhaled shakily. Transform. The word felt heavy, because transformation demanded honesty, and honesty hurt. Later that afternoon, Ethan found himself in the garage. He wasn't looking for anything, just wandering, restless, lost. Then his eyes landed on a dusty cardboard box tucked in the corner. Old photos. Memories. He stared at it for a long moment, then slowly pulled it out. Dust coated the lid. His hands shook slightly as he opened it. Photos. Letters. Keepsakes. Fragments of a life built together. He picked up the first photo. His breath caught Maya, laughing, head thrown back. Pure joy in her face. It was from their honeymoon in California. The beach, sunset, wind in her hair. She looked radiant, alive, happy. Ethan's chest tightened. He remembered taking that picture. She had laughed because he kept insisting on getting the perfect angle. A tear slipped down his cheek. He picked up another photo. Their first apartment. Bare walls. Cheap furniture. Boxes everywhere. Maya sitting cross-legged on the floor eating takeout. Smiling directly at him. God, that smile. When had he stopped seeing that smile? His breathing became uneven. He kept going. Photo after photo. Memory after memory. Birthdays. Trips. Ordinary days. Beautiful moments. Then he found something else. A folded note. His brow furrowed. He recognized Maya's handwriting instantly. His pulse quickened. He unfolded it carefully. It was old. Slightly faded. A note Maya had written years ago. Probably left in his lunch bag. She used to do that. Small notes. Small acts of love. Ethan stared at the words. I know life gets busy, but promise me something. His chest tightened. He kept reading. Promise me we'll never stop talking. A pause. Promise me we'll never stop learning each other. His vision blurred. He read the last line. I never want us to become strangers living in the same house. Ethan stopped breathing. The paper trembled in his hands. Tears fell freely now. Because she had warned him. Years ago. Not dramatically. Not angrily. But clearly. She saw the danger long before he did. And he missed it. Or worse. He didn't take it seriously enough. His body shook with grief. The note slipped from his fingers. He broke. Completely. Sobs ripped through him. Raw. Uncontrolled. Pain exploded through his chest. Because now regret was no longer abstract. It was specific. Painfully specific. He remembered every missed opportunity. Every dismissed concern. Every moment Maya tried to reach him. And now all of it came crashing down. The terrifying truth settled heavily over him. Maya didn't leave because she stopped loving him. She left because loving him while feeling unseen became unbearable. That truth destroyed him because it meant something painful. This wasn't sudden. This wasn't random. This had been years in the making. And he had been asleep. Emotionally asleep. Until now. Until loss forced him awake. Ethan wiped at tears with shaking hands. His voice cracked into the empty garage. I'm so sorry. The words echoed uselessly. Because Maya wasn't there to hear them. And apologies meant little without change. Real change. Not panic-driven promises. Not temporary guilt. Real transformation. That was the painful reality. If he wanted any chance at redemption, he would need to become someone different. Not to win Maya back, but because the man he had been could not sustain deep love. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. Again, the house felt suffocating. Too full of memories. Too full of silence. He lay in bed staring into darkness, exhaustion heavy in his bones. But every time he closed his eyes, memories returned. Maya's voice, Maya's face, Maya's sadness. Eventually, he gave up. At 1:46 a.m., he sat on the edge of the bed with his phone in hand. His chest felt tight, his mind restless. He didn't even know what he was searching for. Maybe answers, maybe punishment, maybe truth. Slowly, he opened his messages with Maya. The thread stretched back years. Thousands of messages. Fragments of life, love, routine, ordinary moments. He scrolled upward. Father, older conversations. And at first, the messages made him smile through tears. Early marriage, playful jokes, flirting, affection. Maya sending random selfies. Maya teasing him. Maya texting him in the middle of the day just to say she missed him. Back then, warmth flowed easily between them. The love felt alive, effortless. Then, gradually, the tone shifted. Not dramatically, subtly, painfully subtly. Ethan started noticing patterns. Messages he barely registered at the time now carried heartbreaking meaning. 3 years ago. Maya, miss you. His reply. Ethan, miss you too. Busy day. Nothing wrong with that. Except the pattern repeated. Again and again. She reached. He acknowledged. But rarely engaged deeper. 2 years ago. Maya, can we have dinner together this weekend? No phones? Just us. His reply. Ethan, Saturday is packed. Maybe next weekend? Next weekend never came. Ethan swallowed hard. His chest tightened. He kept scrolling. Another message, 18 months ago. Maya, I feel like we've been disconnected lately. His response came 6 hours later. Ethan, sorry, long day. We'll talk later. They never did. His breathing became shallow. God, how had he missed this? He kept scrolling. Then he found voicemails, old voicemails. His fingers trembled as he pressed play. Maya's voice filled the silence. Warm, soft, painfully familiar. Hey babe, just checking in. He closed his eyes. Another voicemail. Hey, I know you're busy. I just wanted to hear your voice. His throat tightened. Another. This one sounded different. Quieter. Sadder. Hey, I don't know. I guess I just miss you. His chest cracked open. He pressed pause. Tears streamed freely. Because now, he heard what he missed before. Loneliness. Need. Longing. Pain. It had always been there. Hidden in plain sight. Maya had not stopped reaching overnight. She reached for years. Years. And he kept missing her. Not because he didn't care. Because he stopped paying deep attention. That realization wrecked him. He dropped the phone onto the bed. Hands trembling. Dr. Carter's words echoed again. Attention is one of the purest forms of love. Ethan buried his face in his hands. Attention. Not money. Not gifts. Not even loyalty alone. Attention. Seeing. Noticing. Staying curious. Presence. And he had failed there. Massively. His shoulders shook with silent sobs. Then another realization surfaced. One even more painful. Maya didn't leave when she first felt lonely. She didn't leave after one bad year. Or two. She stayed. She tried. She waited. She gave chance after chance after chance. She fought for them far longer than he realized. And when she finally left, it wasn't impulsive. It was after emotional exhaustion had emptied her. Ethan stared blankly ahead. The weight of that truth crushed him. Maya had been grieving the marriage while still inside it, while he remained comfortable, oblivious, secure in assumptions. He whispered into the darkness, "How did I become this blind?" No answer came, only silence. And then, a memory surfaced, sharp, painful. 2 months ago, they had been in bed, Maya lying beside him. Quiet. He remembered she had said something, softly, almost like a whisper. "Do you ever think about us?" At the time, he barely looked up from his laptop. He answered casually, "Of course." But now, the full memory returned. Maya had gone silent after that, then asked, "No, Ethan, I mean really think about us." He remembered frowning, slightly irritated. "What's wrong?" Long silence. Then Maya had said, "Nothing." His chest tightened violently. God, that moment, that was one of the final chances, one of the final openings, and he missed it. Again. Because he assumed. Because he didn't pause. Because he didn't lean in. Because he wasn't truly present. Tears filled his eyes again. He whispered, "I hear you now." The words broke apart in his throat. Pain flooded him. Because hearing her now changed nothing about then. Time didn't reverse. Opportunities didn't return untouched. Damage didn't disappear because awareness arrived late. That was the brutal truth about regret. Sometimes growth begins only after loss. And if you're lucky, that growth transforms you. If you're unlucky, it arrives too late to save what mattered most. Ethan leaned back against the headboard, exhausted, emotionally wrecked. But beneath the grief, something else quietly emerged. Resolve, not desperate panic, not shallow promises, something deeper. He could not undo the past, but he could face himself honestly. He could change. He could learn. And maybe, just maybe, if Maya ever allowed space, he could show her change through consistency, not words. Real transformation was not. For now, one truth remained painfully clear. Loving someone required more than staying. It required presence, attention, intentional effort, daily choice. And Ethan had learned that lesson in the hardest possible way. 10 days after Maya left, Ethan saw her again. He had replayed this moment in his mind countless times. What he would say, what he wouldn't say, how he would explain everything he had finally begun to understand. But now that the moment was here, words felt fragile, small, insufficient. They agreed to meet at a quiet cafe halfway between Naomi's place and their house. Neutral ground. No emotional history attached to the space. Still, Ethan's pulse hammered as he walked in. The familiar scent of coffee filled the air. Soft music played overhead. People chatted quietly around them. Normal life. Ordinary. And yet nothing about this felt ordinary. Then, he saw her. Maya sat near the window. Simple sweater. Hair pulled back. Coffee. Untouched. Calm. Beautiful. But different. Something in her energy had changed. She looked lighter. Not happy. Not carefree. But steadier. More grounded. More centered. Ethan's chest tightened, because he realized something painful. She was learning how to breathe without him. He approached slowly. Maya looked up. Their eyes met. A strange silence passed between them. Not hostile, not warm, just heavy, with everything unsaid. Ethan sat across from her. Neither spoke for a moment. Finally, "Hi." Maya's voice was soft. "Hi." Silence returned. Ethan noticed everything now. The way she held her mug. The slight tension in her shoulders. The exhaustion still lingering beneath her calm. He swallowed. God. How had he stopped noticing these things before? Maya broke the silence. "How are you?" The question felt strange, simple, ordinary, but loaded. Ethan answered honestly. "Not great." A faint, sad smile touched her lips. "At least that's honest." Ethan nodded slowly. Silence. Then he took a breath. "There's a lot I want to say." Maya studied him quietly, then said something unexpected. "Before you say anything," she paused. "I need this conversation to be different." Ethan frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" Maya held his gaze. "No fixing." The words landed softly but firmly. "No promises you can't prove yet." A pause. No desperation. Her voice softened. "And no saying what you think I need to hear." Ethan felt something tighten in his chest. Because she was right. That old version of him would have come here with speeches, promises, solutions, plans, fix-it language. Maya continued. "I need honesty." A long pause. "Even if it's uncomfortable." Ethan nodded slowly. "Okay." Maya sat back slightly, waiting. The silence stretched. Ethan inhaled deeply, then exhaled. And for once, he didn't lead with defense, didn't lead with explanation. He led with truth. "I finally understand how much I hurt you." Maya's expression shifted slightly, still unreadable. Ethan continued, his voice low, steady, painfully sincere. "And I hate that it took losing you to see it." Tears burned behind his eyes. "I've spent the last 10 days seeing everything I missed." A bitter laugh escaped him. "Actually, maybe not everything." He shook his head. "Just enough to realize how blind I've been." Maya listened, silent, present. Ethan swallowed. "I used to think being a good husband meant loyalty, protection, and providing." A pause. "I thought if I gave us a stable life, that meant I was loving you well." His voice cracked slightly. "But now, I understand something." Maya waited. Ethan held her gaze. "I was loving you from my comfort zone." Silence. The words hung between them. Maya's eyes softened slightly. Ethan continued. "I gave love in ways that felt natural to me." A pause. "But I avoided the parts of love that challenged me emotionally." His voice lowered. "The vulnerable parts, the uncomfortable parts, the parts that required emotional presence." Tears blurred his vision. "I failed there." Maya remained quiet. But Ethan noticed something. She was truly listening, really listening. And that alone felt different. No defensiveness, no interruption, just presence. He continued. "I started therapy." Maya's eyes flickered slightly. "I know." Ethan blinked, then remembered. "The text." He nodded. Silence. Then Maya asked quietly, "Why?" The question caught him off guard. He frowned. "Why what?" "Why therapy?" Her gaze remained steady. Ethan thought carefully, then answered. "At first," a bitter smile touched his lips, "because I was terrified of losing you." Maya nodded slightly, as if expecting that. Ethan continued. "But that changed." He leaned back, breathing deeply. His voice softened. "Now I think I'm there because I finally realized something's broken in me." The honesty surprised even him. Maya's expression shifted. Something deeper now. Something softer. Ethan continued. "I don't know how to sit with emotions." The truth felt raw, exposed, painfully vulnerable. "I never learned." He swallowed hard. "When things got emotionally heavy, I escaped into logic. Fixing, solving, controlling." His voice dropped. Because vulnerability felt threatening. Maya's eyes glistened slightly. Ethan noticed, but he didn't rush, didn't panic. He stayed, and that mattered. He continued quietly. "I thought emotional control meant maturity." A pause. "But now I realize." A painful smile touched his face. "I was emotionally disconnected." Silence. Then Maya spoke, softly. "That's the most honest I've heard you in years." The words landed deeply. Ethan felt tears threatening again, because she was right. This version of him felt unfamiliar, raw, open, unprotected, but, strangely, more real. For the first time in years, he wasn't performing strength. He was simply telling the truth, and truth felt terrifying, yet freeing. Maya looked down at her coffee, then back at him, her voice quiet. "I can see you're trying." Ethan's breath caught. A pause. Then Maya added, "But trying now doesn't erase what happened." The words hurt, but Ethan didn't defend, didn't react. He simply nodded. "I know." And for the first time in a very long time, Maya saw something in Ethan she hadn't seen in years. Not confidence, not control, humility, real humility. And that changed the conversation. The air between them felt different now. Still heavy, still painful, but different. For the first time in years, neither of them was defending. Neither was trying to win. Neither was trying to control the conversation. They were simply telling the truth. And truth had a way of stripping everything down to what mattered. Maya sat quietly, studying Ethan. She could see the change. Not dramatic, not polished, subtle, real. He looked tired, emotionally raw, less guarded, less certain, more human. And somehow, that made this harder. Because part of her had spent years waiting for this version of him. The version willing to sit in discomfort, to stay emotionally present, to listen without trying to fix. And now he was here. But so much damage had already been done. That truth hurt. Maya exhaled slowly, then asked the question that had lived quietly in her heart for years. "Did you ever feel emotionally close to me?" Ethan blinked. The question clearly surprised him. He thought carefully, then answered honestly, "Yes." Maya frowned slightly. "When?" Ethan swallowed. His voice softened. "In the beginning." A sad smile touched his lips. "When everything felt slower, a pause, when we talked for hours, when nothing distracted me." He looked down briefly, then back at her. "I felt close to you when emotions felt safe." Maya's brow furrowed. "Safe?" Ethan nodded slowly, his voice careful now. "I think I loved emotional intimacy." A pause. Until it required confronting discomfort. Silence. The honesty hit deeply. Maya said nothing. Ethan continued. "When emotions were warm, easy, affectionate." A painful breath escaped him. "I could show up." He held her gaze. "But when emotions became painful," his voice dropped. "I shut down." The truth landed heavily. Maya felt sadness rise in her chest, because now she understood it more clearly. It wasn't that Ethan rejected connection entirely. He rejected emotional discomfort, which meant intimacy had limits. And real love eventually demands emotional depth beyond comfort. She asked softly, "Did you know you were shutting down?" Ethan answered immediately, "No." A bitter laugh escaped him. "That's the terrifying part." His eyes filled slightly. "I really thought I was trying." Maya looked at him quietly. He continued, "I didn't realize I was showing up physically while disappearing emotionally." The words struck both of them, because that was exactly what had happened. He was there, but not fully there, present in body, absent in depth. Maya looked away briefly, pain and understanding mixing together. Then she spoke, quietly. "There's something I need to admit too." Ethan looked up, surprised. Maya's fingers tightened around her mug. She stared at it for a long moment, then finally spoke. "I blamed you for everything." Ethan frowned. "Maya." She shook her head. "No." Her voice remained steady. "I need to say this." Silence. She took a breath. "The distance wasn't all your fault." Ethan stared, confused. Maya continued. "I communicated, until I felt repeatedly misunderstood." A pause. "Then I shut down too." His expression shifted. Listening carefully, Maya swallowed. Pain rose in her chest. "I stopped telling the full truth." Ethan frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" Tears filled Maya's eyes. She whispered, "I made it easier for you not to see." Silence. Ethan stared. Maya's voice trembled now. "I said, 'I'm fine,' when I wasn't. I said, 'nothing,' when everything was wrong." She wiped at tears. "I stopped pushing because disappointment hurt too much." Her voice cracked. "So, I adapted, overfunctioned, carried more, asked for less." A painful pause. "And quietly resented you." Silence filled the space. Ethan sat completely still. Maya continued through tears. "I kept telling myself you'd eventually notice." A broken laugh escaped her. "But you didn't." Her voice dropped. "And instead of telling you just how broken I felt." A tear rolled down. "I withdrew." Ethan stared at her. Something painful moved through him. Because now, he saw it. The full picture. Not villain and victim. Two wounded people. Two loving people. Two emotionally conditioned people, repeating patterns they didn't fully understand. Ethan whispered, "Why didn't you tell me how bad it got?" Maya laughed bitterly through tears. "Because I was scared." The honesty hung between them. Ethan frowned. "Scared of what?" Maya's voice softened. "Scared that if I kept needing more." Her lips trembled. "You'd keep disappointing me." Silence. Then, or worse. She looked directly at him. "I'd discover you simply couldn't love me the way I needed." The words shattered something deep inside Ethan. Because that fear had lived quietly beneath everything. And now it was spoken aloud. Raw. Painful. True. Tears filled Ethan's eyes again. His voice broke. "I hate that I made you feel that way." Maya cried silently. Ethan's chest tightened. A terrifying truth settled between them. Love had never been the issue. They loved each other deeply. That was obvious now. The problem was deeper. Emotional maturity, emotional capacity, self-awareness, patterns, conditioning, wounds. Maya wiped her tears slowly. Then asked the question both of them feared. Can people really change? Silence. Long, heavy silence. Ethan thought carefully. This question mattered more than anything. Finally, he answered. Yes. Maya watched him closely. Ethan continued. But I don't think people change because they're scared of losing someone. A pause. I think real change happens when truth becomes impossible to ignore. Silence. Maya absorbed his words. Ethan's voice softened. I can't promise perfection. A small pause. But I can promise this. He held her gaze. I will never again confuse comfort with connection. Tears filled Maya's eyes. Because for the first time in years, she believed he understood. Truly understood. And that realization brought unexpected emotion. Hope. Tiny. Fragile. Dangerous. But present. And that scared her. Because hope meant vulnerability. Hope meant possibility. Hope meant risking disappointment again. Maya looked away toward the window. Her heart conflicted. Love remained. Understanding had deepened. Change seemed real. But trust was different. Trust rebuilt slowly. Through consistency. Through time. Through action. Not words. She turned back toward Ethan. Voice calm. Quiet. Honest. I believe you understand now. Ethan's breath caught. A pause. Then Maya said the hardest truth of all. But understanding and rebuilding are not the same thing. Silence. Ethan felt the weight of her words. Because she was right. Awareness was only the beginning. Trust required much more, and both of them knew it. Healing was proving to be far less graceful than Ethan expected. He used to think growth would feel empowering. Clear. Linear. Like progress charts and visible results. But this felt messy. Uncomfortable. Humbling. Some days felt like breakthroughs. Other days felt like collapse. Some days he felt emotionally open. Other days, he felt the old instinct returning. Shut down. Detach. Control. Retreat. Dr. Carter warned him about this. Healing wasn't about perfection. It was about awareness. And awareness was exhausting. Because now, Ethan noticed everything. Every emotional reflex. Every avoidance pattern. Every uncomfortable instinct. He saw himself more clearly now. And clarity was painful. 3 weeks after Maya left, Ethan sat in Dr. Carter's office again. The silence felt less intimidating now. Still uncomfortable. But familiar. Dr. Carter studied him calmly. You look tired. Ethan let out a dry laugh. I am. Dr. Carter smiled slightly. Emotionally? Ethan nodded. Yeah. A pause. Then Ethan admitted something. I thought understanding everything would make this easier. Doctor. Carter tilted his head. And? Ethan leaned back. It doesn't. A bitter laugh escaped him. If anything, it hurts more. Dr. Carter nodded slowly. That makes sense. Ethan frowned. How? Dr. Carter answered calmly. Because awareness removes denial. Silence. That landed deeply. Dr. Carter continued. Before, your blind spots protected you. A pause. Now you see clearly. Ethan stared ahead, breathing slowly. Yes, that was exactly it. He could no longer hide behind ignorance. He saw the damage. He saw the patterns. And, most painfully, he saw himself. Dr. Carter leaned forward slightly. Tell me what you're learning. Ethan exhaled slowly, then spoke. I've spent my whole life performing strength. Silence. The words surprised him, but once spoken, they felt true. Dr. Carter said nothing. Ethan continued. Everything I learned about being a man. He paused, centered around control, his voice lowered. Be strong. Be steady. Don't break. Handle things. Protect. Provide. A bitter smile touched his lips. Feel less. The room fell silent. Dr. Carter asked quietly, what happens when you do feel deeply? Ethan answered immediately. It feels dangerous. The honesty hit hard. Dr. Carter held his gaze. Dangerous. How? Ethan swallowed, thinking carefully. Then, the truth surfaced. It feels like losing control. Silence. Dr. Carter nodded slowly. There it is. Ethan frowned slightly. What? Dr. Carter spoke gently. You confuse vulnerability with loss of control. The words struck deeply. Ethan stared, because that was painfully accurate. Dr. Carter continued. So when emotions intensify, a pause, you instinctively regain control through logic, distance, or solutions. Ethan's chest tightened. God, yes, that was exactly what happened. Every time. Dr. Carter's voice softened. Tell me something, Ethan. Who taught you that vulnerability was dangerous? The question landed like a weight. Ethan froze. His father's face surfaced instantly. Strong, silent, emotionally distant, predictable, controlled. He exhaled. My father. Dr. Carter nodded. What did vulnerability look like in your home? Ethan laughed bitterly. It didn't. A pause. We didn't talk about feelings. Another pause. We managed problems. Dr. Carter listened. Ethan's voice dropped. If something hurt, he swallowed. You moved on. Silence. Dr. Carter asked gently. What happened when you needed comfort? The question caught Ethan off guard. His chest tightened. Because suddenly, he wasn't thinking as a man. He was remembering as a boy. And the memory hurt. A lot. His voice became quieter. Raw. I stopped needing it. Silence. Dr. Carter held steady. Ethan's jaw tightened. Emotion rising. Asking for comfort felt pointless. His voice cracked slightly. So I adapted. The words felt painfully familiar. Dr. Carter noticed. You adapted. Ethan froze. Because suddenly, that word connected something powerful. Maya, her words. I adapted. His breath caught. Dr. Carter's voice remained calm. What are you thinking? Ethan swallowed hard, then whispered. Maya and I did the same thing. Dr. Carter stayed silent. Ethan's eyes widened slightly as clarity formed. We adapted to survive emotionally. A pause. But in opposite ways. His voice trembled slightly. She adapted by shrinking. A pause. I adapted by shutting down. Silence. The realization hit, like lightning. Maya became smaller to preserve connection. Ethan became emotionally distant to preserve control. Different survival strategies. Same route. Emotional self-protection. Dr. Carter nodded slowly. That's important. Ethan stared ahead, mind racing. Everything felt clearer now. Painfully clearer. Neither of them entered marriage empty. They brought histories, conditioning, wounds, patterns, blind spots, and those invisible patterns shaped everything. Dr. Carter spoke softly. This is bigger than your marriage. Ethan looked up. Dr. Carter held his gaze. This is about who you are becoming. Silence. Then, can you learn to stay emotionally present without needing control? The question settled deeply. Ethan sat in silence. Thinking. Really thinking. Then, for the first time, he answered from somewhere deeper than intellect. I want to. A pause. His voice lowered. No. His eyes filled slightly. I need to. Because now he understood something important. This wasn't just about winning Maya back. This was about becoming whole. Learning how to love deeply. Learning how to feel fully. Learning that vulnerability wasn't weakness. It was courage. Real courage. And maybe, for the first time in his life, Ethan was finally ready to learn. While Ethan was learning how to feel, Maya was learning how to stop disappearing. And that realization felt just as uncomfortable. Healing had stripped away distractions. No marriage to manage. No emotional labor to carry. No daily routines pulling her outward. For the first time in years, Maya had space. Real space. And inside that space, truth became impossible to avoid. She wasn't just grieving Ethan. She was grieving herself. The version of herself she slowly abandoned. The version that became smaller, quieter, more accommodating, less honest. And that grief hit differently. Because this wasn't only about what Ethan failed to give. It was also about what she repeatedly failed to protect. Her own voice, her own needs, her own boundaries. A week after meeting Ethan at the cafe, Maya sat in Dr. Angela Monroe's office. Warm lighting. Soft silence. The familiar calm felt grounding. Dr. Monroe studied her gently. You look different. Maya managed a small smile. Different how? Dr. Monroe leaned back slightly. Lighter. A pause. But more reflective. Maya laughed softly. That sounds accurate. Silence settled. Then Dr. Monroe asked, what's been coming up for you? Maya exhaled slowly. Then answered honestly. A lot. I keep thinking about how much I blamed Ethan. Dr. Monroe tilted her head. And? Maya looked down. Her fingers intertwined tightly. And I'm realizing something painful. She swallowed. I abandoned myself long before I left him. The truth hung heavily. Dr. Monroe remained quiet. Present, Maya continued. I kept making excuses. A pause. He's stressed. He's trying. He loves me. Tears filled her eyes. And all those things were true. Her voice shook. But another truth existed too. She looked up. He was hurting me. Silence. Dr. Monroe nodded slowly. Yes. Maya's tears fell now. I knew it. A pause. I knew I was emotionally starving. She wiped her face. But instead of fully honoring that truth, her voice cracked. I kept minimizing it. Dr. Monroe asked softly, why? The question landed deeply. Maya froze. Her chest tightened. Why? Why had she stayed silent for so long? Why had she repeatedly dismissed her own pain? Why had she accepted emotional loneliness for years? The answer rose slowly, painfully. Because I was scared. Dr. Monroe's voice remained calm. Scared of what? Maya's lips trembled. Her voice dropped. Of being difficult. The words hit hard. Because once spoken, they felt devastatingly true. Maya cried quietly. I didn't want to be too much. A pause. Too emotional. Too needy. Too demanding. She shook her head. God, there it was. The wound beneath everything. Dr. Monroe spoke gently. Where did you learn that having needs made you difficult? The question pierced deeply. Maya closed her eyes. Childhood surfaced instantly. Her mother, overwhelmed, stressed, emotionally stretched thin. Young Maya learned quickly. Need less. Ask for less. Adapt more. Be easy. Be good. Be understanding. Her voice cracked. I learned that love felt safer when I asked for little. Silence. Dr. Monroe nodded slowly. That belief followed you into marriage. Maya opened her eyes, tears falling steadily. Yes. A painful laugh escaped her. I became so good at understanding everyone else. A pause. I stopped fully honoring myself. The room fell quiet. Maya sat with the truth. And the truth hurt. Because people-pleasing often looked beautiful from the outside. Kindness, patience, selflessness, grace, but underneath, there was often fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of conflict. Fear of abandonment. Dr. Monroe spoke carefully. Many people confuse self-abandonment with love. The words hit Maya hard. Her breath caught. Dr. Monroe continued. They think sacrifice without boundaries is love. A pause. It isn't. Silence. Then, healthy love requires truth. The sentence settled deeply. Maya stared ahead, processing. Dr. Monroe leaned forward slightly. Tell me something. What would healthy love look like for you now? The question felt enormous. Maya thought carefully. Really carefully. Then slowly. Answers came. Honest. Clear. I want honesty. A pause. Real honesty. Another pause. I want emotional safety. Tears filled her eyes again. I want to feel free to express needs without guilt. Her voice softened. I want mutual effort. She swallowed. I want presence. Silence. Then Maya said something that surprised even her. I never want to shrink again. The words carried power, strength, truth. Dr. Monroe's expression softened. That sounds important. Maya nodded slowly. Because it was. More important than reconciliation. More important than the marriage. This was the foundation. She had to become someone who honored herself fully. Someone who could love deeply without abandoning herself. Someone who could communicate honestly even when truth felt uncomfortable. Someone who understood that boundaries weren't selfish, they were necessary. For healthy love, for healthy connection, for healthy self-worth. A deep breath left her. And suddenly, something inside her shifted. Not dramatically, quietly, but powerfully. Clarity. She finally understood something. Ethan changing mattered. Yes, but her healing mattered too. Because even if Ethan became emotionally available, nothing would truly change if she returned as the same version of herself. The version that shrank, the version that silenced pain, The version that overfunctioned. No, that version could not return. Maya wiped her tears. A quiet strength settled over her. She wasn't the same woman who left that house weeks ago. She was becoming someone new, someone more honest, more grounded, more whole. And for the first time, in a long time, that felt like freedom. Healing changed the rhythm between them, not quickly, not dramatically, but slowly, steadily. Over time, something began shifting. After the cafe conversation, Maya and Ethan started speaking again. Carefully, intentionally, no rushing, no pressure, no pretending, just small conversations. Texts at first, short, simple, honest, then occasional phone calls, then a few more meetings. Each interaction felt unfamiliar. Not because love was gone, because love had changed. It no longer felt automatic, or assumed. It felt conscious, deliberate, fragile, and strangely, more honest. 6 weeks later, they met again, this time at a quiet park near downtown. Cool air, soft sunlight, trees swaying gently in the breeze. Children played nearby. Life moved around them. Normal, peaceful. Maya sat on a bench, watching Ethan walk toward her. Something about him felt different now. Not in appearance, in presence. His energy had changed. He seemed calmer, softer, less guarded, less rigid, more grounded, and most importantly, more emotionally present. Ethan sat beside her. Not too close, not too far, a respectful distance. Maya noticed that. She noticed everything now. Silence settled, comfortable silence. Not the painful kind, the peaceful kind. That alone felt significant. Ethan smiled faintly. How was therapy? Maya blinked, slightly surprised. Then a small smile touched her lips. Good. A pause. You. He nodded. Hard. She gave a quiet laugh. Same. They shared a brief smile. Small, but real. Maya felt something stir in her chest. Warmth. Familiar. Dangerous. She steadied herself. Ethan looked ahead. Then said quietly, I cried in therapy again. Maya blinked. Surprised. Ethan noticed. A faint smile touched his lips. That look says everything. Maya laughed softly. I'm just... She shook her head. Still adjusting to this version of you. Ethan nodded slowly. Me too. The honesty made her smile. Then silence returned. But unlike before, Ethan didn't rush to fill it. He sat inside it. Present. Comfortable. That mattered, more than he probably realized. After a while, Maya spoke. You feel different. Ethan turned slightly. How? She thought carefully. Then answered. Less defended. His expression softened. He nodded slowly. That's accurate. A pause. I spent most of my life trying not to feel vulnerable. His voice lowered. I thought vulnerability meant weakness. He looked down briefly. Now I think avoiding vulnerability made me weaker. The words landed deeply. Maya studied him. She believed him. And that scared her. Because belief created possibility. And possibility reopened wounds. Ethan continued. I used to think strength meant holding everything together. A faint, sad smile touched his face. Now, I think real strength might be staying emotionally open when everything feels uncomfortable. Silence. Maya's chest tightened. Because this was the man she had waited for. The man willing to feel, to reflect, to speak honestly. But pain still lived inside her. Trust was still fragile. She asked quietly, what changed? Ethan didn't answer immediately. He thought carefully, then said, losing certainty. Maya frowned slightly. Ethan looked ahead. Voice, thoughtful. I built my life around certainty. A pause. Control. Stability. Predictability. He swallowed. I thought if I did everything right. His voice softened. I could prevent pain. Maya listened quietly. Ethan's expression shifted. Raw now. Honest. But losing you forced me to face something. A pause. I was never actually in control. Silence. Then, I was just emotionally guarded. Maya felt those words deeply. Because they were true. Painfully true. Ethan continued. And I think that's why I struggled with intimacy. A pause. Real intimacy requires uncertainty. He looked at her. Vulnerable. Open. You can't deeply love someone and remain emotionally protected. The words hung heavily. Maya's breath caught. Because those words held so much truth. Love demanded risk. Love demanded openness. Love demanded courage. And courage had been missing. On both sides, Maya looked away toward the trees, her voice quiet. Sometimes, I wonder if we needed to break to finally understand ourselves. The words surprised even her. Ethan sat still, absorbing them. Then he nodded slowly. I've wondered that too. Silence. A long, reflective silence. Then Ethan asked softly, "Can I ask you something?" Maya looked at him. "What?" He swallowed. His voice lowered. "Do you still love me?" The question landed heavily. Maya froze. Her heart pounded. Because this question mattered. And because the answer terrified her. She looked down at her hands, then answered honestly, "Yes." The word came quietly, but clearly. Ethan's breath caught. Emotion flashed across his face. Pain, relief, love, hope, all at once. Maya's eyes filled with tears. She held his gaze. "I do." A pause. Her voice shook. That never stopped being true. Tears burned in Ethan's eyes. Maya swallowed hard, then said the truth that mattered most. "But love isn't the problem." Silence. Ethan nodded slowly, because he understood. Love was never the issue. The issue was whether love had matured enough to become healthy, sustainable, safe. That was the real question now, and both of them knew it. The silence after Maya's words felt heavy, but not empty, just honest. Both of them sat quietly on the park bench, absorbing the truth. Maya still loved Ethan. Ethan still loved Maya. That much was clear. But love had never been the central problem. The deeper question remained. Was love enough to rebuild what had broken? Maya stared ahead. Children laughed in the distance. The breeze moved gently through the trees. Life felt strangely peaceful around them. Yet inside her, conflict churned. Because hope had returned. Small, fragile, dangerous, and hope scared her. More than anger, more than sadness. Because anger protects, distance protects. Hope makes you vulnerable again. And vulnerability meant risk. Risk of disappointment, risk of pain, risk of trusting too soon. She exhaled slowly, then spoke, quietly, honestly. "I'm scared." Ethan turned toward her, not rushing, not interrupting, just listening. Maya continued, her voice soft, raw. "I believe your change is real." A pause. "That scares me." Ethan frowned slightly. "Why?" Tears filled her eyes. "Because if I believe you," her voice trembled, "I have to lower my guard." Silence. She wiped at her tears. "And I don't know if I can survive that kind of disappointment again." The truth hung heavily. Ethan felt pain tighten in his chest. Because now, he fully understood. This wasn't about convincing Maya. This was about safety, trust, emotional security. And trust, once broken, rebuilt slowly. Painfully, slowly. Maya's voice cracked. "You don't understand how much it hurt." A tear slipped down. To beg for emotional connection for years. Another tear fell. To slowly feel yourself disappearing. Her breathing shook. To love someone deeply while feeling profoundly alone. Silence. Her voice dropped into almost a whisper. "That changes you." Ethan's eyes filled with tears, but he stayed, present, listening. Maya continued, "I learned how to survive without needing you emotionally." The words pierced him. Because they were devastatingly true. She had adapted, built emotional distance, protected herself. And that survival came at a cost. Maya looked at him now, eyes filled with pain and honesty. "What if I let myself trust again?" A pause. "And we end up back there?" The question shattered him. Because there was no perfect answer, no guarantee, no promise strong enough. He could feel his old instincts rising. Reassure her. Promise everything. Fix it. Make her feel safe immediately. But he recognized it now. The old pattern. And instead of rushing, he paused, breathed, stayed present, then answered slowly, honestly, "I can't promise that I'll never fail." Maya froze, clearly surprised. Ethan's voice remained steady. "I'm human." A pause. "I'll make mistakes." Silence. He swallowed. "But I can promise something else." Maya listened. Ethan held her gaze. "I will never stop doing the work." The words were quiet, grounded, real. No more autopilot. No more assumptions. No more confusing routine with connection. His voice lowered. "No more loving you lazily." Tears filled Maya's eyes. Because those words carried weight. Truth, humility, awareness. Ethan continued, "I know now that love is not self-sustaining." A pause. "It requires attention, curiosity, presence, intentional effort." His eyes glistened. "And if we ever rebuild," his voice softened, "it has to be different." Silence. Then he said the words that changed everything. "I don't want our old marriage back." Maya stared, caught off guard. Ethan's expression was deeply sincere. Our old marriage had love. A pause. But it also had blind spots. Pain crossed his face. Comfort. Assumptions. Emotional avoidance. He shook his head. No. His voice lowered. If there's ever an us again. He looked directly at her. I want something healthier. Something in Maya cracked. Because that was exactly what she needed to hear. Not nostalgia. Not desperate promises to return to the past. Growth. Awareness. Truth. A willingness to build something new. Not restore something broken. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Her voice shook. I don't know what happens next. Ethan nodded slowly. Neither do I. A sad smile touched his lips. And for once, a small pause. I'm learning to be okay with uncertainty. Maya laughed softly through tears. A real laugh. Small, but real. They sat in silence again. This time, something felt different. Not resolution. Not closure. But peace. A quiet kind of peace. The kind that comes when truth is finally fully seen. Maya looked down at her hands, then spoke softly. I still need time. Ethan nodded immediately. I know. She looked at him. Voice steady now. I need to trust actions. A pause. Not words. Ethan held her gaze, and answered with calm certainty. That's fair. No defensiveness. No pressure. No urgency. Just acceptance. And that mattered. More than anything. For the first time, in a very long time. Maya felt safe. Not fully healed. Not fully trusting. But safe enough to breathe. Safe enough to hope. Safe enough to believe change might actually be possible. And perhaps that was enough for now. Not certainty. Not guarantees. Just possibility. And possibility, after all they had survived, felt like its own kind of miracle. 3 months later, autumn had arrived quietly. The air was cooler. The trees had shifted into shades of gold and amber. And life had continued moving. Slowly, steadily, softly. So much had changed in 3 months. And yet, the biggest changes were invisible. They lived inside Maya and Ethan. In how they thought, how they felt, how they communicated, how they showed up. Healing had not been dramatic. It had been ordinary, daily, intentional, quiet, but real. Ethan kept going to therapy. Every week. No excuses, no shortcuts, no performing. Just hard, honest work. And slowly, he changed, not into a perfect man, but into a more aware one, a more emotionally present one, a more honest one. He learned to pause instead of react, to listen without fixing, to stay present during discomfort, to ask deeper questions, to remain curious. Most importantly, he stopped performing strength and started practicing vulnerability. Meanwhile, Maya changed too. She stopped shrinking, stopped minimizing her needs, stopped abandoning herself for peace. She became clearer, stronger, more honest. Her boundaries sharpened, her voice strengthened. She learned that love and self-respect must coexist. One could no longer come at the expense of the other, and somehow, as both of them healed individually, something unexpected happened. They began reconnecting, slowly, carefully, no labels, no promises, just truth, just consistency, just presence. Week after week, Ethan showed up differently, not through grand gestures, but through small things, consistent things, the kind of things he once overlooked. He asked deeper questions, and waited for real answers. He noticed shifts in Maya's energy. He paid attention, really paid attention. And perhaps most importantly, he stayed. Even during difficult conversations. No shutting down, no escaping, no fixing, just presence. And Maya noticed. Every single time. Trust didn't rebuild in one big moment. It rebuilt in tiny moments. Repeatedly. Through consistency. Through emotional safety. Through truth. Still, the final question remained. What were they now? That question brought them here. A quiet lakeside restaurant. Soft candlelight. Gentle music. Warm silence. The same city. Different people. Maya sat across from Ethan. Watching him. Really watching him. And for the first time in a long time, she felt calm. Not conflicted. Not panicked. Calm. That realization surprised her. Because peace had been rare for a long time. But peace was here now. Quietly. Beautifully. Ethan looked different tonight. Not physically. There was softness in him now. A grounded steadiness. A quiet openness. The walls that once defined him were gone. Or, at least, lower. Human. Real. After dinner, silence settled between them. Comfortable silence, the healthy kind. Then Ethan spoke, his voice calm, thoughtful. I've been thinking a lot. Maya smiled faintly. That sounds dangerous. Ethan laughed softly. A little. They shared a small smile. Then his expression softened. I've been thinking about us. Maya's heartbeat slowed. She nodded slightly. So have I. Silence. Then Ethan asked quietly, Can I ask you something? Maya held his gaze. Yes. He took a breath and asked the question they had both been quietly circling for weeks. What do you want now? Silence. The question hung between them. Not pressured, not urgent, just honest. Maya stared at him, then looked out toward the lake. Lights reflected beautifully on the water. She exhaled slowly. This question mattered, because now the answer had to come from truth. Not guilt, not fear, not nostalgia. Truth. She turned back toward Ethan and answered honestly. I want peace. The words came softly, but clearly. Ethan nodded slowly, listening. Maya continued, voice steady. I want love that feels safe. A pause. I want honesty. I want emotional presence. Her eyes softened. I want partnership. Silence. Then her voice dropped slightly. I want a relationship where neither of us disappears. The words landed deeply. Ethan's chest tightened, because those words held everything. Everything they had learned. Everything they had survived. Everything that mattered. Maya held his gaze, and then asked the question that mattered most. What do you want? Ethan didn't answer immediately. He took his time, thinking carefully. Then he spoke, honest, open, certain. I want something real. Silence. He continued, not perfect. A faint smile touched his lips. Definitely not perfect. Maya smiled softly. Ethan's expression deepened. But real. His voice lowered. I want love with truth in it. A pause. I want emotional honesty. I want depth. He held her gaze. And I want to keep choosing connection. Tears filled Maya's eyes. Not from sadness, from emotion, because this conversation felt different. There was no performance here. Only truth. Only two people finally seeing each other clearly. Ethan's voice softened further. And, if I'm being completely honest, he swallowed, then said it. I still want a life with you. Silence. Deep silence. Maya felt emotion rise in her chest. Love, grief, hope, fear, peace, all at once. Because this was it. The moment. The final crossroads. And what happened next would change everything. Silence settled between them. Deep, quiet, sacred. Ethan's words still hung in the air. I still want a life with you. Maya stared at him, heart pounding, emotions moving through her in waves. Because this was the moment. The question that had lived quietly beneath every conversation, every therapy session, every difficult truth, every small step toward healing. What now? She looked at Ethan, really looked at him, and for the first time in years, she saw him clearly, not the version she hoped he could become, not the version she mourned, the real man sitting in front of her. Human, flawed, changed, still healing, still learning, but undeniably different. The guarded man who once confused emotional control with strength was gone. In his place sat someone softer, more open, more honest, a man who finally understood that love required far more than loyalty and provision. A man learning how to truly connect. And somehow, that mattered deeply. Tears filled Maya's eyes. Ethan sat still. He didn't rush, didn't pressure, didn't fill the silence. He simply waited. Present, calm, open, and that alone said everything. Maya swallowed hard, then finally spoke. Her voice soft, honest. You know what's strange? Ethan held her gaze. What? A small, emotional smile touched her lips. I spent years wishing for this version of you. Tears rolled down her cheeks. The version that listens, the version that stays, the version that understands. Silence. Her voice trembled. And now you're here. Emotion flashed across Ethan's face. Pain, hope, love, all at once. Maya continued. But something changed in me too. A pause. I changed. Ethan listened quietly. Maya wiped her tears. Her voice grew steadier. Loving you used to feel like survival. The words landed heavily. I was constantly adjusting, constantly waiting, constantly hoping. Her chest tightened. I can't go back to that version of myself. Ethan's eyes softened. You shouldn't. The words came immediately. Without hesitation, Maya blinked. Surprised. Ethan's voice remained calm. Steady. I don't want that version of you back either. Silence. He leaned forward slightly. emotion clear in his eyes. I don't want a version of you that shrinks to love me. Tears filled Maya's eyes again. Ethan continued, I want the whole you. A pause. The honest you. The strong you. The woman who tells the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. His voice lowered. I want a relationship where both of us stay visible. Something inside Maya broke open. Because this was everything. Not perfection. Not fantasy. Truth. Growth. Maturity. Love transformed by awareness. She cried quietly. No longer from grief. From release. From clarity. From peace. After a long silence, she asked the final question. The one that mattered most. How do we know we won't repeat old patterns? Ethan thought carefully, then answered with quiet honesty. We don't. Maya froze. But Ethan continued. We don't get certainty. A small pause. We get choice. Silence. His eyes held hers. We choose honesty. We choose communication. We choose awareness. A pause. And when old patterns show up, his voice softened. We choose to face them together. Tears rolled down Maya's face, because that answer felt real. Not fantasy. Not false reassurance. Truth. Real love was not about guarantees. It was about intentional choice. Daily choice. Conscious choice. And for the first time, that truth didn't scare her. It brought peace. Because perfection was never the goal. Emotional honesty was. Growth was. Intentional love was. Maya exhaled slowly. A deep breath. The kind that feels like release. Like clarity. Like coming home to yourself. Then finally, she smiled. Small. Real. Beautiful. And whispered, I'm willing to try again. Ethan stopped breathing. Emotion crashed through his face instantly. Relief. Love. Gratitude. Disbelief. Tears filled his eyes. Maya. His voice broke. She held up a hand gently. He stopped. Maya smiled through tears. This is not going backward. Ethan nodded immediately. I know. Her voice firm now. Clear. Honest. We are not rebuilding the old marriage. A pause. That version of us is gone. Ethan held her gaze. And nodded. Yes. Maya's expression softened. What comes next? Her voice lowered. Has to be entirely new. A tear rolled down Ethan's cheek. His voice cracked. I want that. Silence. Then Maya reached across the table. Slowly. Intentionally. And placed her hand over his. Ethan looked down. Then back at her. Emotion overwhelmed him. Not because everything was fixed. Nothing was magically fixed. Healing would continue. Trust would still need nurturing. Old patterns might still appear. There would still be hard days. Hard conversations. Hard choices. But now something fundamental had changed. They were awake. Both of them. Awake to themselves. Awake to each other. Awake to what love actually required. And that changed everything. Maya squeezed his hand gently. Then smiled through tears. For the first time, a soft laugh escaped her. I feel like we're finally meeting each other. Ethan laughed through tears too. A broken, emotional laugh. Then whispered, I think so too. Outside, the city lights shimmered across the water. Quiet, beautiful, peaceful. And inside that small moment, neither of them felt certainty. But strangely, they didn't need it. Because love was no longer about certainty. It was about truth, choice, presence, vulnerability, and the courage to keep showing up, together. One honest day at a time. Sometimes, love survives. Sometimes, it transforms. And sometimes, it breaks you open just enough to teach you how to love better. Not perfectly, but truthfully. Maya filed for divorce quietly. And Ethan never saw it coming. But in losing the marriage they found something far more valuable. The truth about themselves. The truth about each other. And the truth about love. That love is not sustained by comfort, or routine, or assumptions. Love survives through attention, through honesty, through emotional courage, through daily intentional choice. And perhaps the greatest form of love is not simply finding the right person, but becoming the kind of person who knows how to love well. This time, they were finally ready. We've reached the end of Maya and Ethan's journey. And what a journey it has been. This story was never really about divorce. It was about something deeper. It was about emotional neglect, silence, healing, growth, and learning what love truly requires. Maya and Ethan taught us something powerful. Love alone is not enough. Love needs attention. Love needs honesty. Love needs emotional presence. Love needs effort. Sometimes, relationships don't break because of betrayal. Sometimes they break because two people slowly stop seeing each other. But healing begins when truth replaces ego. So, now I want to hear from you. What lesson did this story teach you? Do you think Maya made the right decision by leaving first? And if you were in Ethan's position, would you have fought for a second chance? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more powerful love stories with real-life lessons. Until next time, remember this. The strongest relationships are not built by perfect people. They are built by people willing to grow, communicate, and keep choosing each other every single day.